Hey reader friends, my name is Hannah and welcome back to my channel. You guys, today is Halloween and I am so pumped for today's video. This entire week we are going to be reading nothing but thrillers and thriller mysteries. What better time of year? It has been fall, cold, rainy. The next couple days are going to be very overcast, so I am so ready to be in the mood to just read through some of these like spooky kind of stories. And man, do we have a lineup this week. I'm hoping this isn't too ambitious, but I got 4 books here. These are my little books, and I don't think I'm gonna let you know what they are. It's gonna be a surprise. Just like the books, they themselves are a mystery. So the first one though I will reveal to you all, and it is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This book has inspired a lot of movies and TV shows, and it's just an iconic classic, so I'm going to set the tone for the other ones by reading this guy first, and I'm actually about halfway through. So yeah, I want to finish this one and kind of give you guys my thoughts and maybe some reactions along the way, and we'll kind of get into the next ones later this week. Let's cue the music and get reading. Hey reader friends, so I finished Frankenstein just a couple hours ago, and I've had some time to kind of reflect on what I've read, and I'd really like to share with you guys some of my key takeaways, some of my final thoughts, and yeah, just kind of what I think about reading through Frankenstein for the second time in my life. So Frankenstein, I think we've all experienced different movies or just TV shows that kind of allude to Frankenstein as being this creature that's very over exaggerated, almost like a caricature of like a mummy. Maybe Frankenstein's a little bit clumsy, he's not very intelligent, things like that. Well, actually in the book Frankenstein, we're following the tale of Victor Frankenstein, and he is a young man in his early 20s who goes off to university. He is very much interested and passionate about natural science, and while Victor Frankenstein is at the university, he basically develops this theory and becomes obsessed with this thought that he could bring animation to dead things. So what he does is he works in a morgue, he kind of puts together this creature, this monster that we all know is Frankenstein, but in the book the monster does not have a name. He puts together this creature out of old body parts from dead people basically, and he uses what he learned at the university to kind of give animation to this creature, and he becomes obsessed with it. He spends all of his time putting them together and just thinking about what it's going to be. He's like, oh, I'm the creator, this is going to be amazing. And the wild thing is, like, as soon as he's done creating this monster that's like way out of proportion, bigger than any man, he makes him stronger, better, much taller, and as soon as this monster like wakes up and has life, Victor Frankenstein becomes absolutely mortified, terrified. He runs away, the monster gets up and takes off. And so then we kind of follow the rest of the book where Victor Frankenstein kind of goes about his life. He has no idea where the monster has gone. He just kind of tries to forget about it. So the rest of the story, we're just kind of following the tale of revenge of this monster, just taking it out against Victor by killing off those closest to him. And meanwhile, in turn, Victor becomes very vengeful of the monster and tries to kill off the monster. So they're both kind of pitted against each other. And I think what Mary Shelley is trying to show here is very applicable in today's day and age. You know, we definitely have better scientific advancements today in the modern world. We have science now that can create artificial intelligence and robots, things like that. What's not to say that, you know, we as humans create something that ends up turning against us as the creator. So I think that's what makes this so terrifying, is that once a great idea, something you think could be helpful would end up being something very harmful. And yeah, I just really enjoyed reading through this for the second time. There's a lot of this that stood out to me that I totally forgot from the first time that I read it, so it was like reading through it for the first time all over again. And I definitely would give this a 3.5 star. I don't know if I would give it anything higher than that, maybe even a 3 star. It's not something that I think I would pick up ever again. The writing style particularly is from a time period that's much older than what I'm used to reading, so I think because it's more of that classic style of writing, it was just a little bit harder to get through at points in time. So yeah, I think I'm going to end up with a 3 star for this and really enjoyed it, but on to the next one. So we finished Frankenstein, and I think I'm ready to move on to something new, something a little bit more modern, something that's, written in today's day and age, as they would say. So I think we're gonna go with The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I've never read anything by her before. I hear she's a really good thriller writer, and I know a lot of you guys on BookTube have read this book and have rated it pretty highly, so I'm kind of curious to see what I have to think about it. And yeah, basically this tale looks like multiple POVs. We're following a bunch of people that live in this apartment building within Paris, and it seems like everybody's kind of got a secret that they're not like sharing about. So yeah, this one could be super interesting read, kind of get into that Halloween Spooktober vibes. And yeah, you'll notice that this book's a little bit shiny, and that is because I got it from our local library. I love using the library. I probably go there a couple times a month, honestly. Our local library is in a library network, so if there's a book that I want to read and they don't have it, I just put a request out on hold and then I get it within a couple days. So definitely use your library if you have one. It's a great way to get exposed to different types of books, and yeah, they're always free, so why not use a free book every now and then, y'all? Let's get started on this guy. I'm gonna be reading through it, kind of give you my thoughts along the way, some reactions, and let's get reading. Hey guys, it is later and I took a little bit of break from the book for a few hours. I went to the gym with my husband. We had a bit of a workout gym date together, but yeah, I stopped at around page 64, and wow, so far the setup is happening. We're following multiple POVs in this storyline, and I don't really have any good inferences on what's going to happen next, because essentially right now everybody is very suspicious. We're following all these different people that live in this apartment building, and yeah, it's just kind of building at this point in time. There's not a whole lot to report at the moment, but yeah, I want to read a little bit more before I go to bed tonight, and then I'll pick this back up again tomorrow. So let's get reading again.
All of these characters are very morally compromised, but yet I still find myself rooting for them and kind of caring for them. They're almost like misfits banded together, and you can't help but want to see them do well. So I have 30 pages left. I need to finish this book. There's no way I can sleep tonight unless I finish it. And yeah, I'm just gonna read through the rest of the book and then I'm gonna give you my final thoughts once I'm all done. The stakes are really high. The plot's all coming together. I'm really invested in these characters and I have to know what happens. So for my sanity, I'm going to finish this book tonight and I will give you my thoughts tomorrow. Well, I finished the Paris apartment last night, and you probably saw from earlier in my response, but I could not put this down with the last 30 pages. It was so captivating. Honestly, like the first 2/3 of the book are more of a setup, and then you get to the last 60 pages and I could not put it down. I had to figure out what happened. I needed closure. I would say this is definitely more of a mystery thriller than a pure thriller. You're kind of trying to figure out like who committed the crime, who done it basically. Yeah, the last 30 pages, I don't know what it was, but like the ending was amazing. The ending really redeemed the book. And there were points in time in the story where you're kind of like, does this really need to be here? Does this really add to the plot? You know, you're still trying to figure out like what's happening. And then the ending, it like kills this book. It's so good. I gave it 4 stars for that reason. And I definitely would pick up another Lucy Foley book. She is a really good writer. You end up caring for these characters even though they're so morally compromised. Like I said, they all have their flaws and I couldn't help but want to see them like do well. So yeah, it is really good thriller, really good mystery, 4 stars all the way. So that leads me to my 3rd book, which is going to be The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. This is Agatha Christie's debut novel. It was published in 1920. I've never read anything by Agatha Christie either. But I grew up on Scooby-Doo. I freaking love Scooby-Doo, and I really feel like the storyline is gonna be very similar to a lot of the Scooby-Doo shows. If you're not familiar, it's like a group of friends banded together that try to solve mysteries, and this is definitely more of a mystery than a thriller. So in the spirit of that, let's get reading. Hey guys, I have been reading through The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie the last few days, and I've been flying through this book. I'm on page 132 out of 200, so a little over 2/3 of the way through by this point. And I think I'm going to finish the rest of it up today and give you my final thoughts. But so far I can tell you that Agatha Christie's writing is very captivating. Right at the very beginning, we're thrown into the thick of the plot. At the very beginning, you know, we're following all of these characters. They go to this very beautiful estate in the countryside of England, and there's a very wealthy woman who owns the estate, and her name is Emily Iglethorpe, and she ends up dying the next day from being poisoned. You know, there's just so happens that Hercule Poirot, the famous detective, is in town, and he stops by and starts to piece together the different clues and things that would potentially give away who murdered her or who did not murder her. So yeah, there's definitely a bunch of little clues and Easter eggs along the way, which makes it really fascinating to me. And there's also, this isn't gonna give away, but there's also these clues, like, look at this, it's like handwritten. That's so cool, and like maps and stuff. This is really, really good. I'm definitely in love with her writing. I think I might end up reading more of her books. Yeah, I don't have any good clues on who committed the crime at this point, but I think we'll get a wrap up at the end and then I can give you my final thoughts. So
yeah, I'm gonna finish reading this and we'll move on to the last book. So you guys, I need to be completely honest with you. I have also been listening to a thriller on audiobook, and I've been listening to it while I've been working. I tend to do this quite a bit actually. I'll be reading like a hard copy book, but then listen to an audiobook like while I'm working. I have a job that allows me to kind of do this throughout the day since I'm at a desk, and if I don't have any meetings then I can get through more than one book. So the book that I've been listening to on Audible is You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Jeneva Rose. It's a pure thriller, and I started it yesterday and I'm already at 82%. So I'm very sucked into this one as well. Basically, in this storyline, we're following this main character. Her name is Grace Evans. She is from New York City and she goes to Wyoming for a vacation by herself. And she ends up picking this ranch for an Airbnb and is staying in an extra room that is owned by the rancher. And the rancher and her kind of form this like romantic connection while she's there on vacation. And it's just the whole storyline, there's not a whole lot of storyline at this point, even though I'm already at 82%, it's just so creepy and I have to figure out like what's going on. It like sucked me in. So everyone in this town in Wyoming is very suspicious. They all seem like they know something about the main rancher that they're not telling Grace. Yeah, everyone just has a secret. Some of them are a little bit flawed, and it seems like right now it's escalating to a point where something really crazy might happen. And poor Miss Grace, while she's on vacation, all of these weird things start to happen to her. So I could see this going in the direction of being more of like a horror paranormal type thing, or I could see this just going off into being more of a pure thriller and the ending just taking a really bizarre twist. So I'm also going to be finishing this book up today and I will give you my final thoughts at the end. So yeah, my week of thrillers has really turned into quite the week. I was not expecting to get through this many books this week, but I saw this one on Audible and it was available, so I was like, well, why not give it a try? I've already enjoyed all the other books that I've read so far, and it did not disappoint me. So yeah, I'm going to finish this one today, and I'm going to finish The Mysterious Ferret Styles by Agatha Christie, and I will do a total reading wrap up once I finish those two today. So yeah, I'm going to get listening, got to start my day for my job, so I will see you guys at the end. So I finished The Mysterious Ferret Styles last night and I really enjoyed this book. There was so much that was endearing and captivating right from the very beginning. Agatha Christie, her writing is phenomenal. You know, right at the beginning of the book, we are thrown into the thick of the plot and we are following the main character, who is Mr. Hastings. Mr. Hastings goes to visit one of his dear friends, John Iglethorpe, and his mother, Emily Iglethorpe, is the owner of Styles, which is an estate in the countryside of England, and this takes place during the First World War, so early 1900s. And while they are there at the estate on day 2, Mrs. Iglethorpe is murdered. She's poisoned. And the story just escalates from there. There just so happens that Mr. Hercule Poirot, who is the famous Belgian detective, is staying in town and is good friends with Mr. Hastings. Mr. Hastings goes to ask for Poirot's help to solve this case. There's definitely a suspicion of foul play, that Mrs. Iglethorpe was poisoned on purpose and that there is someone within the house or on the property that has done this with ill intent. Basically, the rest of the story are a bunch of different Easter eggs. There's some really cool diagrams that are included in here that kind of piece together the story. And Hercule Poirot is definitely a very beloved character. He's so quirky. And he's described as this little Belgian man, like under 5'4", with a handlebar mustache. He's very eccentric, and has these little quirks with being OCD, and I just found him so endearing, and for that reason I would definitely recommend reading one of Agatha Christie's novels that follow Hercule Poirot. There are others in this series that kind of depict him as the main character, and I am definitely looking forward to getting into some more of those books in this series. So with that being said, this was a very successful read. I'm very thankful that I added this to my list this week to get through. It is very uplifting and endearing and charming compared to some of the other books that I read this week. I gave it 4 stars. I'm very pleased with this book and would definitely recommend it to anybody. I also finished You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Jeneva yesterday, and that book was definitely a lot more of a pure thriller than a mystery thriller. I'm really glad that I ended up listening to this one on audiobook while also reading Agatha Christie's The Mysterious Fairy Styles. I think having those two at the same time kind of helped my sanity a little bit, considering that this book was very creepy. There were a lot of elements to this that felt more like a horror story at times than a thriller, and honestly the entire setup almost to about the last 3 or 4 chapters was a little bit slow, but there were Easter eggs and nuggets along the way that just made it feel so spooky. We follow the story of Grace Evans. She goes on vacation by herself and basically checks herself into an Airbnb in this extra room and lives there along with the rancher Calvin the entire time, and they form this romantic connection together. This is a multiple POV thriller, so we get Calvin's perspective and Grace Evans' perspective at the same time. There's definitely a lot of adult themes throughout the book, so definitely keep that in mind if you consider reading this book that might have a little bit too much spice for you, if you know what I mean. You know, honestly, even though it was so creepy and disturbing, the plot twist was insane. I basically couldn't sleep at night because it was so bizarre. It's just been on my mind for the last day, so for that reason I ended up giving it a 4-star, and it's basically due to the fact that I could not get the storyline out of my mind. I was totally obsessed with it from the very beginning. It's very captivating. It has elements of true crime to it, so if you're into that sort of thing, you probably would really enjoy You Shouldn't Have Come Here. I am very thankful that I ended up listening to this one while also reading Agatha Christie's Mysterious Fairy Styles, which is more of a pure mystery and not so much as a thriller. And yeah, it's been really interesting to kind of gauge the difference between the two. I'm very thankful that I did both of them at the same time. This week is really starting to catch up with me, and now it is finally time for the last and final book of this reading vlog for this week, and that would be The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. I have very high expectations for this book. This book is very well beloved by the booktube community. A lot of you guys have read this, have rated it very highly. I can't wait to get into this. It's something a little bit more mysterious, a little bit more of that pure thrillers compared to some of the other books that I've read this week. So I highly anticipate all of the spooky vibes kind of come out with this one right here. And in this book, we're simply following the tale of the Winchester family. They have hired a new housemaid named Millie, and from there's a lot of different suspicions that kind of arise and the messiness between the characters. I don't believe this is going to be a multiple POV tale, but maybe I'm wrong. We're going to finish off the week with The Housemaid, and can't wait to get into this, kind of share my thoughts along the way, and yeah, at that point we will be done with thrillers and mysteries for the week. I was able to read through quite a bit of this book last night. I am on page 68 of The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. It is still early stages in the development of the story. I'm not even a third of the way through at this point, but there's definitely some tensions of the story that are starting to develop and make you believe one thing about one character so far. And we are reading from the perspective of Millie. Millie is the main character. She is the housemaid and ends up taking this job for this very wealthy family, the Winchesters, to kind of do chores around their house. But there's a little bit of a catch. She ends up having to live with them in the attic, and it's basically like her own apartment away from the rest of the family. But she has nowhere else to go, so she kind of agrees to take this job despite some of the underlying hesitations that she might have about this interesting and bizarre family. So she ends up working for them. Like I said, there's a little bit of tension between her and one of the other main characters, but I'm gonna go ahead and make a prediction right here. Like I've seen in some of these other thrillers, the main character, or even the character that you would expect to never commit the crime or be the weird one or to be the crazy one, ends up being crazy in their own way. It's just the nature of thrillers, I think. I don't know if I'm right or not, but we'll just have to see as we keep reading. This book is a total of 320-ish pages. I don't think I'm gonna finish it today. I would be very ecstatic to get about halfway through this today, and we are approaching the weekend, so I would expect to finish this by that point in time. And I'll just update you guys as I go through it, kind of give you my reactions along the way. We're not at the precipice of the story by any means, but I just want to let you know that there's definitely some tension building. There's definitely some things that the author is alluding to that make you believe one thing about one character, but that's not to say that that's going to be the case at the end. So, very excited to keep reading, and yeah, let's keep the spooky vibes going. So you guys, I read quite a bit last night. As you can see, I'm well over halfway. I'm on page 200 and there's about 320-ish pages. So I'm officially at part 2 of The Housemaid. In part 1, there's quite a bit to report to you guys. There was already a plot twist that I did not see coming. There's a lot of tension building between all of the characters at this point, and basically, I don't know if my original prediction is going to come true or not, or hold up as we continue reading through the end. And I've seen this a lot with a bunch of other thrillers that I've read already this week. It seems like the character that is the most mentally stable, the one that's most sound, ends up being the wild, the crazy one, the one that like commits the crime that you did not see coming. So maybe that will hold up true in this thriller. I mean, I've never read anything by Freida McFadden, so we'll just kind of have to see what the ending entails. At the first section of the book in part 1, at no point in time did I feel disinterested or bored by the storyline. What I've noticed in some of the other thrillers that I've read, it's basically the first like 2/3 of the book is almost like a setup, and then once you get to the ending becomes so wild and crazy, and there's plot twists everywhere that end up kind of redeeming some of the boring parts of the book. Part 1 is not boring. As I was reading this, I was like, wow, I just read 60 pages. Wow, I just read 100 pages. And I did not feel bored or disinterested at any point in time. It was just so captivating to me, and I think the storyline in itself is so fascinating, which is why as I was reading it, I just didn't realize that I read so many pages and the amount of time that had passed. And I think if I just had to rate this based upon what I've read so far, I would already give it 4 stars, and I could definitely see this book headed into the 5-star direction if the ending pans out to be as wild and crazy as some of the other reviewers have pointed out that I've noticed. So yeah, we'll just have to see. If I just had to rate this right now, I'd definitely give it 4 stars. It has 5-star potential. And we are entering into part 2. Part 2 is a little bit of a different setup and writing style. We are reading from multiple perspectives at this point. Part 1 was purely based on Millie's perspective, our main character. Part 2, we get to hear a little bit more from some of the other main characters. and I wonder if the writing style is just gonna make it kind of speed along a little bit faster. Not to say that part 1 was slow by any means, but sometimes when you're reading from multiple perspectives, you kind of get the fuller picture. Perhaps more, plot twists will kind of happen along the way because of that. So yes, I fully anticipate to finish this book this weekend. I really only have about 130 pages left. I could probably knock it out today, later today. I cannot wait to get reading and finish it up and give you guys my final thoughts. So with that being said, we're gonna keep reading. Ugh. Oh my god, I'm so stressed. Hey reader friends, I have officially finished The Housemaid by Freida McFadden, and I am so glad that we ended this week of reading thrillers and thriller mysteries with this book. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and if you remember from some of my earlier reactions, I made the prediction that this had 5-star potential, and I was right. The ending was amazing. The middle part of the book was amazing. The beginning was also amazing, and for that reason, this 100% deserves 5 stars. Freida McFadden did a great job with writing this thriller. At the beginning, we are following the perspective of Millie. But once we get to the last third of the book, we are following multiple characters at this point, which really connects the dots and gives better context to the overall plot of the story. And we learn some wild and crazy things in the last third of this book. So for that reason, I definitely give it 5 stars. There's really nothing to critique other than the fact that there's a little bit of adult spice in this book, so keep that in mind if you end up picking it up. However, the overall storyline was fantastic. It had enough intrigue. The writing style was fast-paced. At no point in the book did I feel bored at all. I also made a prediction about the plot twist, and I was incorrect. So, there's just so many good things about this book that I did not see coming. And so for that reason, I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. So you guys, we have officially finished our week of reading thrillers and thriller mysteries. It has been such a good week to get through all of these books. I ended up reading 5 books. One of them I listened to on Audible. It was rainy and cold and really set the tone and the vibe for being kind of a spookier season of reads, and I'm so thankful that I was able to get through all of these books. So let's recap and talk about the things that I liked, things that I didn't like, and yeah. If you recall, we started this week off with reading Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I actually read this book in high school and have not picked it up since then. And there was a lot in this book that really stood out to me that I completely forgot from high school. There was a lot of, moments when I was reading this book that got me thinking about how applicable this is in today's day and age. Humanity can do corrupt and evil things to ourselves by creating things we think could be helpful that end up being very harmful or detrimental to us. Those moral questions really got me thinking about today. We're so invested in creating the next best thing. And so for that reason, I ended up giving it 3 stars. I didn't feel necessarily connected to a lot of the characters. The writing style is a lot more of that classic writing style. So at times it felt a little bit slow. Perhaps there are some words that are used in this book that we wouldn't use today. So it just felt a little bit off at times, but that's because I read a lot of modern books. So maybe if you like classic type of writing, you would really, really enjoy this book. And yeah, I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. So that was the first book we read this week. Then after that, if you remember, we moved on to more of a mystery thriller, which was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. And you'll remember that it's a little bit shiny because I got it from the library. If you haven't used your library, definitely go use your friendly neighborhood library. It is a great way to get free books and to just pick up something that you normally wouldn't see or read. Things that I liked about The Paris Apartment, it is told from more than one character's point of view. We're following, a bunch of different people that live in this apartment building together. They're all very suspicious. There's an underlying assumption that, something is wrong with each and every one of these people. And as the reader, we're trying to figure out, how are they connected? Are they connected? Why is everybody so strange? It's definitely more of a mystery thriller than that pure thriller. There are elements of adult content in here, so PG-13 plus. Just keep that in mind if you end up picking this up, if you're not really into that sort of thing. And yeah, the last third definitely redeemed the first 2/3, which felt a little bit more like a setup. The author is really building up to the ending where everything just cohesively comes together in a very beautiful way. The ending was so flipping good that it totally made up for that fact. And I went into the last, third of the book thinking I was going to give this maybe 3.5 stars, if not 3.75. The ending was so good. I think I gave it 4.2 stars on Goodreads. If not, I definitely gave it 4 stars for sure. It was just so, so good. I could not put it down. I needed closure once I got to that last bit of the book. But I would definitely recommend it. The writing is really fast paced. I love hearing from multiple perspectives. Having the mystery element to this book was also really exciting. Didn't really make it feel that creepy at any point in time. You're just, following along the multiple perspectives of these people trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Really enjoyed it. Then, if you remember in our journey, we went to another classic, which is The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie, the Queen of Mystery herself. This one is so good. You guys, I think in my earlier video, I was saying that it was so endearing and charming. That's mainly due to the fact with the main character, Hercule Poirot. He is so beloved. I love him so much. I need to read more books in this series. Hercule Poirot really was what kept me invested in the storyline. He is such a unique and quirky character. He has all of these odd mannerisms throughout the book. You're like, why the heck is he doing it? Why is he behaving in this way? And then at the end, it just all comes together so beautifully. And it's so satisfying to get that closure. And you're like, oh, that makes so much more sense now. And the mysterious element of the writing really kept me invested from the beginning. It's not a very big book. If you can see, it's about, I think it's like 200 and some pages. So I read this super quickly, mainly because the storyline was so good, but the writing has a lot of dialogue, so it's just a lot more fast-paced, which I really like. It is a classic, so you will notice at times if you end up reading this, there might be a few words that stand out that are not really used in today's normal everyday language. However, don't let that stop you from reading any of these books by Agatha Christie featuring Hercule Poirot. Her characterization of Hercule Poirot is just next level. There are reasons why Agatha Christie's books have become movies over time. I cannot say enough good things about this. I think I gave this 4.25, if not 4.5 stars on Goodreads. And yeah, definitely pick up one of her books. There really isn't a moment in here where it feels like the pacing of the book was slow by any means. We are thrown into the thick of the plot right from the get-go, which I really appreciate. And the fact that this was a mystery kept it very engaging from a reader's perspective. There's also cute little diagrams and charts and like handwritten letters and artifacts and clues along the way that are included within the novel, which is also really captivating and kept me interested as the reader. I didn't feel bored by this at all at any point in time. So yeah, I want to read more of Agatha Christie's works, especially those that feature Hercule Poirot in her series. And if you recall, I also listened to an audiobook this week, and that was You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Jeneva Rose. And You Shouldn't Have Come Here was the most
thriller-ish book that I read this week, if that makes any sense. There wasn't really any elements of mystery to it. It was a lot more of a thriller. At certain points in the book, I really felt like it was going to lean more towards paranormal, if not like a horror style of novel. It just got so creepy, but I couldn't like stop listening to it. That's the problem. Like, I hate it, but I love it, which is so confusing because I had a hard time giving it a rating on Goodreads because there are moments where I'm like, oh, this is kind of icky, but at the same time, I'm like, well, I can't stop listening to it because it sucked me in. Now, I will say, if you are a fan of true crime or stories like that, you will definitely love this book. There is an underlying element of true crime to it. And, you know, the overall writing of this book is a little bit slow. There's a huge amount of time in this book that is spent towards setting up for the ending specifically. So about the first 80%, almost to the 90% is like a big setup. You're like, a few things happen, a little weird, whatever. But the ending just threw me off completely. I was like, where is this coming from? It got so disturbing and so creepy at the very end. I was like, well, I need to finish this so I can have closure and sleep at night. It definitely kept me up at night a little bit because of the way that it ended. So keep that in mind if you pick this up. There are a little bit of adult themes within it as well. So, you know, again, if you're sensitive to like adult spice kind of a thing, this one I think had the most adult spice compared to some of the other books that I read this week. So just keep that in mind, fair warning. But overall, it was a great read. It was very fast paced. We're also reading from multiple perspectives from two different characters, which really helps add to the overall context of the storyline. So yeah, I think I ended up giving it 4.25 stars on Goodreads and would definitely recommend it. Definitely the creepiest one out of all the books I read this week. And the last one, which we read, was The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. You guys, this week really got to me towards the end. After I finished You Shouldn't Have Come Here, I was like, do I really want to pick up another thriller? And the answer was, yes, I really want to pick up another thriller. I just got into the mood with it being so cold and rainy, and we're at the end of the Halloween week here, so I really wanted to get through this last book here and kind of close out the week on a good read. I had high expectations for this book and it did not disappoint. It was so good. Beginning, middle, end, phenomenal. The first 2/3 of the book were basically following one perspective, which is Millie. She's the housemaid that goes to work for the Winchesters, and she does various house chores for them and has some hesitations because they are a little bit bizarre and creepy and leaves Millie a little bit unnerved about some things within the house. However, the ending, the last third, we are following multiple perspectives from two different characters, and it really adds so much context to the overall storyline, which I really, really liked. At no point did I feel bored or disinterested. There's really nothing about this that I did not like. The writing was good, there was enough dialogue to keep it engaging, and I just really, really, really liked it, and so I ended up giving it 5 stars. I want to read the second one that's in the series, and I think there's going to be a third one released at some point in time. I'll read that one, of course. Freida McFadden is a great author. She has written many other thriller books, so I definitely need to try out more of her work, considering I love this one so much. That concludes our week of reading thrillers and thriller mysteries. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and for watching this video. You guys are amazing. I thank you so much for your support as I continue in my booktube journey. So I hope you guys have a great week and love you. See you in the next one. Bye!